Women of Reddit, what's something every girl should know but is rarely taught? I know I'm late to the party, but even if only one person sees this, there is no shame in doing a pregnancy test. In fact, if something is weird with your hormones body that you haven't experienced much before, it's always better to do a test just to be sure. Even if it's unlikely you are pregnant, if there is any likelihood at all, just do the test and be sure. I heard of it so many times at this point that even fully grown women hesitate, sometimes for weeks, to do a test, and it can land you in hot waters. Besides, it is agony to have that creeping doubt. Every contraceptive can fail, and it's much better to know early and have all the options. On that same note, cheap pregnancy tests work exactly the same and are just as effective as expensive pregnancy tests. I keep a multi-pack of cheap stick tests just to be sure. I live in a household of girls. We keep a Costco pack under one of the bathroom sinks like we do tampons and toilet paper. It happens. Rather us be prepared with a stick than have to go run and grab one in the moment. Also, you can get Plan B on DoorDash Uber Eats if available in your state. Also, you can ask your OB-GYN for a prescription for Ella, because then insurance will cover it and you'll have a Plan B on hand for emergencies. Plus, Ella is more effective in the 3 to 5 day window and for overweight women than Plan B is. How to measure a bra. Definitely. How to measure and select the true bra for your body. Our birth outfits, since we're here. I sold bras at a high-end department store in college, so I thought I knew how to correctly measure my size as I got older. I was wrong. I kid you not when I say that our birth outfits was literally life-altering. It works particularly well for women with a small rib cage and large breasts. I went from wanting breast reduction surgery to finally feeling comfortably supported without. How to wash genitals. Many women have gotten infections due to not knowing how to wash themselves. Like fragrant soaps or douching is obviously bad, but not taught very often. Edit https://yahoo. V9V1E0VMGNH4. This video by an OB-GYN will show you how to clean your vulva. When I was around 12, my aunt gave me some terrible advice. I love her a lot, but this really fucked me up. She told me to go inside with the soap. Like all the way. To her credit, she told me to do it with the kind of soap that is made for washing down there. Little me went and used Dove vanilla scented soap to do it. After getting the infection, I really thought I was just smelly, was never educated about these kinds of infections. I was 12. So I went and washed even more vigorously with the same soap the next day. And again, and again. I had no way of knowing how terrible it was for me. I don't remember how it stopped. But that infection was long-lasting and it made me want to skip school. Which I did a few times because of this. This is the importance of teaching kids the right things. I was on the opposite of that spectrum. I heard that the vagina is completely self-cleaning. And that getting near it with soaps was bad for it. So I didn't even wash the external parts with soap, just water. For years. The sweet spot is. Wash the outside with soap. Don't touch the inside with soap or water. When people say not to wash the inside, do they mean not to wash between the labia and around the clitoral hood, or not to wash up in the canal where a tampon would go? As a former Christian homeschool kid, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from this thread. I was taught to wash the skin-colored parts with skin soap, the pink parts with water. And the inside parts take care of themselves from an ignoring the technical names for things for the moment perspective. Ladies, when you go for a smear test or pap smear for my American gals, they guess the size of the instrument, the speculum, they need to use on you based on your height. It shouldn't be painful. You can ask for a smaller one if it hurts. They just don't offer that info out. Oh, I remember my first pap smear, American gal, and the doctor, female, used the largest speculum possible. It hurt like hell, and I cried out in pain. Her response, if you can fit a penis up there, then you can fit this, and she shoved it further. I was a virgin for goodness sakes. Only 13 years old, and the reason I was getting a pap smear was because I was having heavy painful periods that lasted for weeks. I ended up prescribed with birth control pills to regulate my periods. After that, I was beyond petrified to have sex. Please tell me you got a new doctor. That is revolting. You were just a child and regardless of how many penises she suspected you have had, you were in pain. Not to mention that there is a huge difference in what is possible when one is aroused and has been building up to arousal versus when one is not at all aroused, as well as scared, uncomfortable, and has had no time to prepare. That doctor sounds like such a frickin' moron, not to mention a horrible doctor. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And such ignorance from a woman doc no less. Jesus. PRRR. Clean your makeup brushes. Your skin will thank you. And your sponges. They're harder to clean, but the gunk really builds up if you leave them. Not only do you get to say no whenever you want, You also get to say yes when you want. Don't let society teach you that you need to act shy or play games in order to be desirable. As a society, in order to stand our ground that no means no, women must also be willing to express when it's a yes. It's okay to be rude if someone won't leave you alone. You don't owe anyone your time or energy. Honestly, sewing and altering clothes not for gendered reasons, but because our clothes oftentimes fit irregularly. The size 12 in one brand will fit completely differently from a size 12 in a different brand. Also, you can learn to sew larger pockets into your pants. Say no more. You had me at pockets. Weightlifting and strength training is good for you, and more women should lift. Edit, all the comments amaze me. Superscript AU. Lifting and working out in general is fantastic for one's mental health. It's a great outlet for getting out one's emotions. It's great for your body too. Plus, as someone with ADHD, it's amazing because when I lift, my brain is quiet. It's so zen. Also, to any women out there who are afraid of bulking up, don't be. That shit takes work. Consistency. A solid workout routine, pushing yourself. Lots of protein and eating more calories than you burn. If only it was that easy to bulk up and get jacked. It takes a lot of work and dedication. You can absolutely lift weights and become healthy and fit without ever looking like The Rock. But if you want to be jacked like The Rock, by all means go for it. Just get ready to put in a ton of work and double your grocery budget. Lactating women do not have just one stream of breast milk that comes out of the middle part of the areola. Yup. It all looks a bit more like a watering can. You have multiple ducts where milk is released. Adding on to this, people need to understand a bit lore about the basics of human lactation. How it works, what is normal abnormal, and where to reach out for help. And to do so the second you have questions. Lactation issues are much easier to correct the sooner you get help. Never been pregnant, so honestly didn't know that. Very interesting. My wife lactated in her armpit. Caught us both off guard. Heck yeah. Always a fun way to discover an extra nipple. They can show up anywhere along the mammary lines. Think of where a dog or cat has nipples and extrapolate that to your human anatomy. Really cool stuff. Don't hold different standards for yourself that you wouldn't hold for the ones you care about. I'm so guilty of this. It is a hard habit to break. It certainly is, especially when all we're taught is to meet the unrealistic societal standards. You have two types of exocrine glands in your vaginal vestibule. They secrete clear fluid but can become impacted, swollen, and very painful. When referring to the part of your genitalia that is not within your body, the vulva is the external part and includes labia minora and majora, while the vestibule is internal. Your urethra is a tiny hole within the vestibule where you urinate out of, and the vagina is the opening to the vaginal canal which leads to the cervix. They are not the same hole, which is why you can still pee while wearing a tampon. It breaks my heart when women do not know their own anatomy, and few schools teach it thoroughly. Edit, after reading through the comments I want to add that the two types of glands mentioned above are the periurethral glands, alternatively called the Skene's gland, and the greater vestibular glands, alternatively called Bartholin's gland. These are paired glands, one on each side of the vagina. The periurethral glands are analogous to the prostate in men and supply ejaculatory fluids. The greater vestibular glands are analogous to the bulbourethral gland in men and secrete mucus and enzymes to clean and lubricate the vagina. The penis is embryologically and functionally the male analogous structure to the clitoris. The labia majora are embryologically analogous with the scrotum. They both arise from genital swellings on the developing tubercle. The terms Bartholin's gland and Skene's gland are gradually being phased out by the medical community, along with many other eponyms, in favor of anatomically descriptive terminology. Using the names of the men who claim to have first identified these glands provides no real value. I was homeschooled and no one taught me about my anatomy or really periods. When I started my period I took a tampon and tried to put it in my urethra because I thought it was my vagina, then obviously it didn't fit, so I figured I had to stretch it out. And I tried a Q-tip first. 100% the most painful and traumatic part of puberty. Edit. Since this is getting a lot of attention, I just wanted to throw this out there. Yes. Educating your child, of any gender, about their anatomy is vital. But I should also mention that pads would have been a much less traumatic choice of product for someone new to periods, regardless of my anatomical understanding. I didn't use them because one of my friends was talking about pads one time. And a ton of other kids bullied her for using them because they're so disgusting and that's like wearing a diaper. And I was afraid of facing the same fate if I used pads. So in addition to teaching anatomy, don't forget to try to undo generations of stupid baseless stigma about bodies and bodily functions. Part of me died inside reading this comment. Rip your urethra. Yes, ripping your urethra is a possible complication. Still waiting for someone to teach me about menopause. Going through it now. No one told me about the insomnia. The hot flashes drench my head. Oh, and brain fog is real. And no one seems to mention that it's not a few months or maybe a year. I've been dealing with it for 4+ years. Absolutely ridiculous. I would like to speak to menopause's manager. I asked my GP how long it would last. He shrugged. Fuck you, menopause. Average of 7 years. You do not have to take care of everyone around you. You do not have to take care of everyone around you. Lumps in your breasts are not always cancer. Of course, get them checked out. But it is common to find cysts in your breast. Source: found a lump in my breast, freaked out, searched Google, freaked out more, stewed for months, booked an appointment with my obgyn only for him to tell me yeah, it's a cyst. Stop messing with it. It's come on it, do not stew for months. Go to the doctor ASAP. Also do not stew for months. Go see a doctor immediately. My mom freaked out and saw a doctor the next day. It was cancer. Seeing a doctor ASAP will achieve one of two things. You'll either find out it's nothing to worry about and you won't have to be anxious about it for long, or you'll find out it's cancer, in which case the early you catch it the better. Sorry to hear about your mom. My mom turned 50 and had the whole shebang done since it was a new DR. Mammogram, ultrasounds, blood, the works, and they found some teeny tiny spots in both boobs that were confirmed cancer by biopsy. They tried to get her to do a lumpectomy, but she said no, take them off. They're trying to kill me and all my kids are grown, so that's what she did. She has a 3% chance of it coming back in her cervix, and she didn't have to do chemo or radiation. She just has to take a pill once a day for 5 years. Well, that's a weight off. Strategies for financial independence, self-defense, self-love, and assertive communication. Your safety is always more important than a man's feelings. If you feel unsafe, protect yourself first. Think about how others may perceive you later. This is what we are taught at work at a psychiatric hospital. Women and everyone really have to be okay with being less polite in order to maintain our safety. Sometimes another staff member will tell you that you are perfectly fine and safe going to meet with that patient alone, but your gut tells you that's not true. If I can't be a little bold and argue even a little, that man will convince me to go in a room with an aggressive patient with no backup. Take action and yourself at first priority. If your gut is telling you that a guy group is making you uncomfortable, excuse yourself accordingly and don't underestimate your gut. If you think your period has started and or leaked, don't wait and check. Road trip and need to use the restroom? Due to our lack of water pistols, please stop at a gas station. Also, just a note, your tummy will look different throughout the day. Usually it gets larger and smaller post-meal and from varying gas amounts. It's okay. They're made to protect organs. Anyway, they don't have to be as flat as a door. It's okay. They're made to protect organs. Anyway, they don't have to be as flat as a door. Man, why do I need to keep telling myself that? People who do photo shoots of their flat tummies and washboard abs will starve themselves and deny themselves water for days at a time to look like that. Healthy is hot. Healthy is sexy. Healthy is beautiful. Healthy is kickass. They have separate scissors for A, basic items, B, hair, fabric, and if someone mixes them up, they might get stabbed. The leftover trauma of using my mother's good scissors as a child. Your vaginal discharge is slightly acidic to help kill off bacteria. This is why your underwear may gradually get little holes forming in the gusset. Edit to say may, as many have you pointed out, we're all different and will have different experiences of this. Staining, etc. I spent my entire childhood thinking the discolored patches on my mom's underwear were because birds had pooped on them when she hung them out to dry after washing. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is. That where you are in your menstrual cycle can affect your immune system. Ovulation equals lower immune system. Reasoning for it is to try to promote a pregnancy. Your immune system, basically, knows what's you and what isn't you and will attack what isn't you. Sperm isn't you. The zygote embryo is half you, half not you, and might get attacked. It's why your skin may look better while you're ovulating, and it's why pregnant women are immunosuppressed. Period equals strong immune system. It may be why you feel like shit before you get your period and why all those pimples pop up. Your body is now fighting off crap that your ovulation period lets slip through, including pimples. We have no control over this. That's the part that kills me. We have zero control. The menstrual cycle can also affect things like endurance. Female distance runners perform better during and immediately after their period and worse around ovulation. It's equal parts fascinating and really annoying. I don't think they know why yet, but a lot of women with ADHD report that their symptoms get worse around their period. We actually know a lot less than we think about the menstrual cycle. It's very understudied. So there are probably more diseases affected by the cycle than not. If I were to guess, I would say the ADHD itself isn't affected, but when your hormones drop to allow the lining of your uterus to come out, you go through a kind of withdrawal like a mini menopause, and you get brain fog, which of course is already difficult to deal with if one has ADHD. The facts of a healthy vagina. A lot of things are 100% normal that society deems as gross, unfortunately. Like the fact that bleached underwear is a common and perfectly normal side effect caused by the pH of vaginal discharge. Or the fact that you start getting vaginal discharge years before you start your period. Nobody told me, and I spent like a year as a 10-year-old thinking I was dying or had some horrific disease. I actually was convinced I had already got my period, but it was white for some reason. I thought something was wrong with me, but I never told anyone cause I was embarrassed and wasn't sure it actually was anything. I don't know why they couldn't mention that in any one of the period talks we'd had by then. Just because there is another female present doesn't mean you are automatically safe. Women can be predators too. Edit, thank you for the awards. Ghislaine Maxwell is an excellent example of this also. Fuck Ghislaine Maxwell. How to change a tire. Step 1, pull over to a safe place where it is flat, not rocky, and put on your hazard lights. Also put the parking brake on, and if you have anything to use as a chock for the other tires, put that into place. Step 2, locate your spare tire. Most are located underneath the floor of the trunk. Some SUVs through will have the tire on the exterior of the trunk door or underneath the carriage. They are generally secured into place using some form of screw cap. Step 3, use the jack and wrench provided to lift up the vehicle. Most are diamond jack as they are the most space efficient. Key thing is placement of the jack. You want to avoid soft ground like grass and also soft spots in the car body which can collapse or sink. If you have a piece of wood, you can put that underneath the jack to help prevent sinking if you can't avoid soft ground. You also want the section of the jack that has the spot for the wrench poking out. Step 4. Start turning the wrench so that the jack is starting to take some of the weight of the car. But do not go all the way off as you need the tire on the ground to help prevent the wheel moving when loosening the nuts, plus it's safer. Step 5. Lefty Loosey, Righty Tighty. Remove the nuts in an alternating star pattern. They may be tough. If they aren't coming off, find something to lengthen the wrench handle to increase the torque on the nuts. Step 6. Once the nuts are off, start lifting the car using the jack completely to get the wheel just off the ground. Step 7. Do not lift. Wiggle the wheel off the hub and roll it aside. Roll and wiggle the spare tire onto the hub and reverse the steps of tightening. If the spare tire is a bit smaller than the main tire, you may need to lower the car very slightly so that you can place the wheel in place without lifting. Step 8. Double check the wheel is in place tightly and lower the car and remove the jack. Slap the tire and say that's not going anywhere and admire. I'm going to go ahead and say perform step 2 at your earliest convenience. Should be step 0. Really? Along with locating or supplying the other tools. Hells yes. The worst time to look for your spare is late at night in the rain, right after you've blown a tire. Miscarriage is normal. Common. Too. And sometime you won't even know you had one. It's pretty normal to have some level of diarrhea, weird poops when you're on your period. Sorry it's a thing, but if you're reading this, I'm glad you don't need to get to like 30 before finding out it isn't just you like I did. Also, vulvas and breasts come in a wide variety of configurations. The range of normal is huge. Please do not rely on porn or any pop culture depictions to decide if what you've got is normal or okay. And asymmetrical breasts is common too. So are asymmetrical labia. I am 53 and just learned that I'm not alone in the asymmetrical labia department. I seriously thought it was a kind of minor birth defect. When I say just learned, I mean like within the last few weeks. Lol. How to negotiate a pay raise, higher salary, etc. Too many of us, girls and boys, are not taught how to advocate for ourselves and know our worth to employers. Last time I was offered a promotion at a corporate job, they were all, "Oh boy. And you'll get a $2 an hour raise." I said I'd call them back shortly. Did the math. But the amount of commissions I got on top of my hourly, they'd have to give me a $3 a raise just to match my average pay, not to mention the raise needed to cover my new responsibilities. I called back and told them as much and said I'd take a $6 per hour raise to start, and if the store numbers went up in the first month by 10%, I'd take another $2 after 30 days. And we could renegotiate after 90 days of the promotion, depending on store numbers. They said they couldn't do that, so I said I'd stay in my current position. They called back within 5 minutes and agreed. I said I'd wait on the paperwork confirming it, and wouldn't you know it, it worked. Yes, always get a signed change form letter stating your new salary and effective date. Also, always check your pay stub to ensure that they are paying you correctly.